Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Protests and outrage following the fatal and dramatic shooting of a woman in Minneapolis, placing more scrutiny on President Trump's immigration policy and crackdown. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The shooting came one day after around 2,000 federal agents descended on the Minneapolis area as part of President Trump's expanded immigration operations nationwide. As Lee Waldman reports, the events are not only spurring clashes between protesters and law enforcement, but between state and federal leaders.
Grief?
It was so sad. It was so sad. It's like you have to do something. You can't just sit back on the sidelines.
And outrage after an ICE agent fatally shot a 37-year-old woman in her vehicle in Minneapolis on Wednesday.
There is every reason to believe that Renee Nicole Good lost her life trying to help the most vulnerable neighbors in her community.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem defended the agent and claimed the woman tried to run him over, while state and local officials disputed claims that the shooting was done in self-defense.
They demanded and commanded her to get out of her vehicle several times. She did not. This is an experienced officer who followed his training, and we will continue to let the investigation unfold.
But Minnesota Governor Tim Walz referred to the event as a brazen use of force and slammed what the state claims is the federal government's decision to exclude a Minnesota agency from its investigation.
We have learned that the Trump administration has now denied the state that ability to participate in the investigation. Minnesota must be part of this investigation.
Walz called on federal authorities to work with state and local officials to de-escalate the tension in the community and for protesters to remain peaceful, while vowing to get justice for the mother of three who lost her life.
Minnesotans will tell her life story. Minnesotans will be there to defend her honor and see this as a human being.
In Minneapolis, Lee Waldman, KPBS News.
For months now, local organizers in San Diego have been holding weekly protests in front of the federal building downtown. But after the shooting in Minneapolis, the situation on the ground today was more intense, and that only escalated when federal agents detained one of the organizers. KPBS Public Matters reporter Jake Gatta has the story.
Protesters gathered here in front of the federal courthouse downtown like they do every Thursday, but this protest was different. Yesterday, federal agents in Minneapolis shot and killed a woman in her car. Her name was Renee Good. Tensions were already high because of what happened in Minnesota, but before the event even started, DHS agents detained Dan Shook Castillo as he was dropping off water for the protest.
Earlier today, I was dropping off water when a DHS agent approached my vehicle and told me that it is a non-parking, and he asked me, he told me that I should be getting along. And then he asked for my ID, which I did not feel was warranted. And when I said, why don't I show you my ID? I initially refused, and then I was handcuffed.
Castillo was with SEIU Local 221, the organizers of the protest. He was released shortly after and given a parking ticket. We have not been able to confirm with DHS if it's their protocol to detain people over an alleged traffic violation. Just a few moments later, Castillo spoke to the crowd.
You know what? This is proof that this is getting to them. They are scared of us. They are scared of our power. They are scared of what it looks like when we realize that there is more of us than them.
Organizers say this protest was larger than in recent weeks, and there were some new faces in the crowd as well. But the protesters were very clear about one thing. They want ICE out of San Diego. Jake Gatta, KPBS News.
A high wind advisory was in effect for our mountains and deserts earlier today, and the Santa Ana winds are expected to remain through the middle of next week. All the windy weather and days of rain have raised concerns over falling trees. Earlier this week, a massive eucalyptus tree fell in Canyonside Park, and parts of 2 trees fell during the Christmas storm, one in City Heights, killing a man. The other crashed into a Spring Valley home. What happens is the tree's roots begin to lose their grip as the ground becomes soaked from the rain. Our media partner KGTV spoke to a tree service contractor who says prevention is key.
Because it looks pretty healthy, but sometimes in the inside is hollow, the tree, so it's hard to know until you start cutting it or trimming. If you see it like a branch going towards your house or where you park your car or stuff like that, it's better to, cut it.
Trimming or removing trees near your home can reduce wind resistance, eliminate weak branches, and help avoid damage to homes, cars, and power lines.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and tonight's going to be quite a chilly night under a clear sky as temperatures drop back down to the 40s. But we'll be talking about the winds of change and some warmer conditions and just how pleasant the weekend will be. I'll have more details coming up.
San Diego County is once again tracking the spread of COVID and other respiratory illnesses through wastewater testing. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco explains why this matters and what the early data shows.
For the first time, San Diego County's public health lab is routinely testing wastewater in its own facility. Federal funding for a regional COVID wastewater surveillance partnership ended in April 2025.
Wastewater is a really important surveillance tool. It's kind of new and emerging, and what it does is helps us to provide an early warning system for our community.
Jeremy Corrigan directs the county's public health lab. He says wastewater testing helps capture what's circulating across the entire community, not just people who get tested or show up at a clinic.
There may be people in our community that are not sick enough to go seek health care, so those wouldn't be caught in our clinical testing. Or maybe they don't have access to health care or insurance and they don't seek health care.
The testing works by analyzing sewage collected from major treatment plants, including Point Loma, South Bay, and Encina. When people are infected with viruses like COVID or the flu, traces are shed through everyday activities like using the bathroom, showering, or washing clothes.
So what this wastewater surveillance allows us to do is get access to all of that data in our community and provide that back to everybody to be able to make informed decisions about their health.
The first wastewater sample shows COVID levels remain low, while flu cases are increasing. The trend mirrors the county's latest clinical data. Data published today show about 1,000 flu cases reported last week and lower COVID case counts at around 140. For doctors, that information can help guide real-time decisions.
For me, better to know something than to just kind of try to guess at it. And this is another tool in our toolbox that physicians and our public health can use to protect the community.
Dr. William Sang is Assistant Chief of Staff at Kaiser Permanente. He says it also helps him advise patients when risk is rising.
When patients come in and I know the transmission's high, I let people know, hey, be careful out there.
The county has made the wastewater data public through a new online dashboard.
We wanted to make it as available as real time as possible. And there's a lot of complex graphs on there, but at the top of the dashboard, you'll see kind of an easy to interpret summary.
County officials say future wastewater testing could expand to include diseases like hepatitis A, measles, and Mpox. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
The county is moving forward with plans in Lemon Grove to build cabins for people experiencing homelessness. But KPBS reporter Elaine Alfaro says the project has had some hiccups along the way.
County officials thought they had a sweet deal here at the corner of Sweetwater Road and Troy Street. For $1 a month, the county would rent the land from Caltrans and be able to build about 60 cabins for people experiencing homelessness. The cabins will likely still be built, but the $1 a month deal is gone. That's because the land was bought with federal money, and the Trump administration won't let it be rented for below market rates. So the county had to pivot last October and is in negotiations to buy the land from Caltrans for $955,000. Here's County Supervisor Monica Montgomery Stepp.
My direction was, let's move forward and see how we can negotiate a sale. because it is important to stay the course. If we changed course, we may have to start all over again. That, in my mind, is a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Meanwhile, there's still people in the neighborhood who are opposing the project. Kuza Blair lives a few blocks away from Troy Street. She understands the need to address homelessness, but she doesn't think this is the right location.
We don't have many resources as far as job and employment. We don't have many resources as far as rehabilitation or any kind of services that these people could receive. And so it's why this neighborhood.
Bill Fulton is the co-director of the Center for Housing Policy and Design at UC San Diego. He says having resources on site could address those concerns.
If you've got case management and services on site and you've got decent sanitary housing, the risk to the surrounding community and to the elementary school is pretty low. I mean, if this works the way it's supposed to work, you probably won't even realize that it's there, or you won't realize that it is housing serving formerly homeless people, as opposed to housing serving anybody else.
In addition to the cabins, the county plans to offer on-site case management support for the residents. Caltrans officials will meet in March to discuss the sale. If approved, the county hopes to break ground on the project this summer. Elaine Alfaro, KPBS News.
A shooting in Imperial Beach is drawing new scrutiny on how the sheriff's office responds to mental health crises. Just days before Christmas, a local man was shot and killed by a sheriff's deputy. KPBS's Corey Suzuki says the community is mourning his death. And a warning, this story contains mention of death, police violence, and suicide.
It's a misty Sunday evening along the waterfront in Imperial Beach. Normally, the entrance to the IB Pier is colorful and bright, the giant rainbow surfboards glowing in the sun. Tonight, though, the sculpture is lit by the somber orange glow of candles, as a little over a dozen people gather to hold a vigil for Gary Gates. Gates spent most days living here, along the waterfront. He had some rough edges. People who knew him said he wasn't always rational or easy to be around. But they also said he was honest and emotional. He loved feeding the pigeons and played a video game where his character was a DJ. Gates was also active on Facebook. His profile is full of videos of the ocean waves and people in the park. Here's one of him talking with a city worker.
I've been sleeping here 7 weeks, and you come out yelling at me this morning saying you need the spot? Yeah, we do. You can't do that.
In the days before the shooting, though, it seemed like Gates was in a dark place. On Friday, December 19th, he posted about the challenges he's faced in his life, about the costs of healthcare and the bureaucracy of California's housing system, and how he might try to overdose on drugs or get a police officer to shoot him. That night, the San Diego County Sheriff's Office says they got a call about Gates possibly overdosing near the IB Pier. The Sheriff's Office is the main law enforcement agency in IB, which doesn't have its own police department. Police say Gates was holding a knife and threatening to stab himself. The officers called in the county's psychiatric emergency response team and crisis negotiators. They say they got him to put the knife away and offered mental health services, but he declined. The police left.
911 emergency.
Hi, this is Gary Gates. I'm at the pier in Imperial Beach. It's 10 Evergreen. Could you send Officer X to go out here to speak with me for a minute?
2 days later, they got a 911 call from Gates himself. 3 deputies responded, body cameras rolling. The videos show a bright Sunday afternoon along the pier. It's the weekend before Christmas. In the background, there's a powwow festival going on. You can see tents and a big crowd.
Gary, what's going on, man? What's going on? Let's just have a conversation.
Gates says he wants to talk to one of the deputies, Maxwell Hammond. Hammond approaches Gates, who backs away from him. Come on, Gates says. Get your gun out.
Hey, back up. Gary, you're not... Back up. Gary, you're not cool, man. Come on, get your gun out.
Hammond keeps walking towards him. Gates takes out a knife as he walks backwards into the intersection. Don't miss, he says.
Hey, hang on. Gary, stay where you are. Go get a bean. Sorry, grab a bean bag in my car.
Hammond asks one of the other deputies to get a beanbag, referring to a type of less lethal shotgun. He and another deputy draw their guns. The third draws her taser instead.
Gary, don't do it, Gary. Gary.
Gates falls to the ground. I forgive you, he says. The next clip we see is Hammond applying bandages. as an angry crowd gathers.
Gary was asking for a sheriff to end his life, and that they should be prepared for that scenario in the street and what to do when that happens.
Danielle Richardson lives in IB. She's a doctor in the South Bay and a member of the local Cop Watch, an advocacy group that records police officers responding to calls. Richardson says the deputy's response raises a number of questions. She says they should have taken Gates to the hospital when they first encountered him the Friday before.
When somebody is a threat to their own life, they have to be put on what we call a 5150. That's a medical hold for them to get emergency mental health treatment.
Richardson says they also should have taken the knife away from Gates, and deputies should have been prepared to de-escalate if Gates did try to confront them. Richardson also says Hammond, the deputy who shot Gates, didn't handle the situation well.
He didn't even make any lawful commands to Gary to drop his weapon. He just said, Gary, no. That's not a clear command.
The shooting is now under investigation by police in the city of San Diego. That's because of a countywide agreement meant to avoid conflicts of interest. The San Diego County Sheriff's Office did not respond to questions by KPBS's deadline. In Imperial Beach, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
A very well-told story by Corey there. If you or someone you know are having thoughts of suicide, you can call or text 988. You can also visit 988lifeline.org for 24/7 free and confidential support.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, the continued fallout from the shooting of a U.S. citizen by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Somali child care providers in San Diego say strangers are surveilling their centers. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says the harassment spread from Minnesota this week.
Samsam Khalif has provided child care in San Diego long enough to watch babies become adults. 2 days ago,
I was coming to my house and having a kids in my car, and I saw a car in front of my house. 2 young men was in there and having a camera.
She was scared. She circled the block, hoping they would leave.
Finally, I go into my house, and when they saw me that I have kids that I'm dropping off in the car, they just passed by to me and drove away.
Khalif isn't alone. In December, President Donald Trump called Somali people, quote, garbage. Weeks later, a YouTuber began surveilling Somali-run child care centers in Minnesota, making unverified claims of fraud. The harassment spread to San Diego.
Protect and defend. Protect and defend.
A San Diego domestic workers union says it's heard of at least 7 incidents this week of strangers surveilling, harassing, and even stalking Somali child care providers. They encourage providers to report these incidents as hate crimes to the police. Shawnila Rivera is a San Diego City Council member. He says he will work with the police to make sure the reports are appropriately handled.
Choosing to make the Somali community, every Somali and Somali American in this country, a suspect for fraud is racist, it is unfair, and it is completely inconsistent with the incredible work that the Somali Americans in San Diego do to make San Diego a better place.
Khalif says she no longer feels safe. She installed a new security system on her house.
I can't believe that I'm feeling this fearness in here in the United States, that I came, all the way down because of my country to flew to here to feel safe. And now I'm feeling this way. I mean, under the Constitution in America, it surprises me.
Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
San Diego families with school-aged children will need to make arrangements as a one-day strike means school will close. San Diego Unified will close schools on February 26th as San Diego Educator Association, or SDEA, will go on strike over special education staffing issues. It is part of a California Teachers Association initiative aimed at bringing pay and benefits in alignment. The district says its decision to close schools is for student safety, supervision, and the ability to operate during a work stoppage. March 9th will be a makeup date for missed classes. Multiple large outbreaks in 2025 have put the U.S.'s measles elimination status in danger. Mandy Gaither has the latest data released by the CDC and explains why experts say everyone who's unvaccinated is at risk, regardless of age.
It's one of the most contagious diseases, but a vaccine is highly effective protection against measles. However, vaccination rates have been falling for years. For the 2024-25 school year, CDC data shows 92.5% of incoming kindergartners had received the vaccine. That's below the 95% threshold that public health experts say is necessary to prevent outbreaks.
There is a threat that the United States could lose its measles elimination status again after 25 years.
Dr. William Moss with Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health says the number of measles cases last year in the U.S. is the highest it's been since the year 2000. CDC data released today shows for the full year of 2025, there was a total of 2,144 confirmed measles cases reported in the U.S. and 49 outbreaks. But the CDC says only confirmed cases are included, not ones deemed probable by states. So far in 2026, there are 3 confirmed measles cases linked to outbreaks that started last year.
Not surprisingly, 92% of the cases have been in those who are unvaccinated or without a known vaccination status.
Moss says what's surprising is the ages of those who have gotten measles. The CDC says about 25% of cases have been in children younger than 5 years old, but about 1/3 have been in adults older than 20 years of age. If the outbreaks continue, Moss says the U.S.'s measles elimination status is under threat. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Oceanside has declared an emergency after sand buildup decreased the depth of the harbor. As KPBS North County reporter Alexander Wynn shows us, it's creating a dangerous situation for boaters.
They have it marked like danger, shallow area right there.
Captain Nathan Warren travels in and out of the harbor regularly, taking guests whale watching. He gave us a tour to show how dangerous the harbor mouth is due to the sediment buildup.
There, that little dark green spot, that's right where that sandbar is, and there, it's breaking right there.
He says several boats have run aground here.
Something needs to be done. People just need to be aware of it, you know?
This is why the city of Oceanside declared an emergency and deployed additional resources here.
What we've been doing is Marine Safety has been keeping Tower 14 open on Harbor Beach.
Jamie Timberlake is the city's coastal zone administrator. She says keeping the tower open enables lifeguards to monitor the harbor and assist boaters with safely navigating the channel. The sand buildup has lowered the depth of the harbor's mouth to between 14 and 7 feet. The ideal depth is 30 feet.
And if you are not an experienced boater or your boat doesn't have a measuring device that allows you to see the depth of the area where you're in, you're going to have difficulty getting in and out of our harbor right now.
The city has petitioned the Army Corps of Engineers to do an emergency dredge, but the Corps determined the harbor is still navigable. Brian Kim is the Corps' project manager.
And even though we aren't able to, accommodate an emergency dredge request, we do acknowledge that the harbor is not in ideal conditions, and it's, it needs to be dredged.
That's why the Corps has put out bids to start the dredging sooner than the scheduled annual dredging in April. Officials have warned boaters not to use the harbor entrance during low tides or during big swells, as that could overturn boats.
The last thing we want is Oceanside getting labeled a dangerous harbor to go in and out of,
In Oceanside, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Starting off with your weather headlines, as we are tracking a pretty decent pattern change after some recent wet and cool weather. It still will be cool, but it's going to be getting drier. Our winds do shift tonight, and some warmer weather eventually returns over the coming days, which does lead us into a really pleasant weekend. Chilly, though, tonight. Borrego Springs, 37. Mount Laguna, 27. Down to 44 in San Diego, but even chillier in Chula Vista at 41. In Oceanside, your temperature is dropping to the upper 30s through tonight. Still some gustier conditions, especially through the foothills, the valleys, where winds could still be gusting 40 to 60 miles per hour. That's also bringing us the cooler temperatures. And while we're not concerned about a fire danger from the Santa Ana winds, there could be some winds that are strong enough that may uproot some smaller trees with just how wet it has been across Southern California. So still dealing with those gustier winds through the day tomorrow, and cooler air dominates through the day Friday, but high pressure, sinking air. We are going to have wall-to-wall sunshine, a day's worth of sunshine. It's going to be beautiful as we get up to 66 in Oceanside, San Diego, Chula Vista, but still staying rather cool in Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna, with temperatures running below the historical average. The weekend, though, I mean, this is a good sign on this map. We're dry, temperatures returning to near average. Let's take you through the 5-day forecast along the coast. I'm jealous of this weather. Brilliant sunshine, 66, 71 on Saturday, and 73 for a pleasant Sunday. A few clouds returning by Monday. We take you further inland, where a lot of sunshine over the coming days here. How about that sunny and 75 weather Sunday and Monday before temperatures come up on Tuesday? The mountains do stay pretty chilly over the coming days here, but lots of sunshine. Will feel nice, and temperatures come back up to the 50s by Tuesday. And the deserts, our temperatures stay cool, but it's a gradual warming trend here, back to the 60s and then eventually the 70s by next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On NPR's Morning Edition, two friends talk about the strain the pandemic put on their friendship. And KPBS Roundtable is breaking down all the latest drama over the rollout of paid parking at Balboa Park this week. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.